I'm going to begin the day with a review of sector developments across 2018, and then we'll have a couple of panel discussions that add some further color to what we expect to see in 2019. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine, or ARM, ARM is an international advocacy organization dedicated to realizing the promise of regenerative medicines for patients worldwide. We're a membership organization with more than 300 members currently, and we really focus on the issues that are fundamental to the growth of the sector. So those are the regulatory environment, the reimbursement environment, manufacturing and infrastructure issues, communication and education, and facilitating sustainable access to capital. I'm happy to say that we have a new chairman of the board of directors of ARM who's here with us today. Matt Patterson, the chairman and CEO of Audentes Therapeutics, has taken over as the chairman of ARM. So thanks for that, Matt. The ARM membership is diverse. Unlike some other associations, it doesn't include only industry members, although it includes a substantial number of small and large companies. Our membership also includes nonprofits, research institutions, medical centers, and patient advocacy groups. And this diversity of membership and our ability to speak on behalf of the full sector gives ARM some additional clout in policy debates. Oops. Sorry, here's just another view of the membership. And as you can see, it's publicly traded companies that are highlighted in bold. I'm happy to say that ARM has grown rapidly along with the sector. As you can see, we began as an organization only in 2009 and have achieved really significant growth over that whole period, as I mentioned, ending up with about 304 members as we speak. So on to the State of the Industry briefing. Today, I'd like to cover 6 topics with you. First, I'd like to give you an overview of the whole global sector. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about clinical progress and patient impact. We're going to show you some of the anticipated clinical data events we're tracking for 2019. I'm going to review for you what the financing picture in 2018 looked like for the sector, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about public policy. In case you're interested, the charts that I'm going to use will be available for you to download at the ARM website, and momentarily, if not already, will be tweeted from the ARM Twitter feed. So the global sector overview. So ARM, with its data partner Informa, keeps a curated database of the global regenerative medicine sector. And at present, we're tracking 906 gene and cell therapy and tissue engineering companies worldwide. As you can see from this graphic, about half of those are in the United States and North America, roughly a quarter in Europe, and another 15% or so in Asia. Not surprisingly, the Asia portion of the industry has been growing of late, but there's been growth across all geographies. When we look at this, I won't go through this whole slide in detail, but I wanted to give you a sense of when we talk about companies in this sector, what are we talking about in terms of therapeutic platforms and enabling technologies? So as you can see here, what we're trying to cover are those involved in smart biomaterials, tissue substitutes, advanced cells, cell-based immunotherapies, novel and synthetic gene delivery vehicles, a variety of genome editing approaches, and next-generation expression constructs. On to clinical progress. So this year we saw several product approvals across multiple geographies and technologies, including gene therapy, cell therapy, and tissue engineering. In Europe, we saw approvals for Spark's Luxturna, Gilead's Yescarta, Novartis's Kymriah, and Takeda's Alofisel. In the US, we saw Avita's RECELL, an additional indication for Kymriah. And in Australia, we saw approvals for 3 mimetics tissue products as well as Kymriah. The clinical trial landscape is robust. As you can see, we're tracking 341 active trials in this sector in phase 1, 595 in phase 2, and 92 in phase 3, for a total of more than 1,000 clinical trials. That's up, the total number is up 9% over last year, and the phase 3 number is up 12% over last year as things move through the pipeline. Looking a little bit more specifically at clinical trials by technology type as of the end of the year, you can see that gene therapy, gene-modified cell therapy, and cell therapy all have substantial activities. And tissue engineering, although the number is smaller, actually saw the largest year-over-year growth, seeing 95% growth in the number of ongoing clinical trials from last year. And you can see from this chart, I won't go through all the numbers, but the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 totals. When we look at the clinical trials by therapeutic category, this picture probably won't surprise you. The majority of the activity is in oncology, with 598 oncology trials in the data set. That's 58% of all the trials that we're tracking. 7% are in cardiovascular disorders, a significant number of trials there, 67. And then the next largest category in musculoskeletal disorders. But you can see from the chart that although those are the 3 leading indications, there are a whole variety of both rare and prevalent diseases covered by the ongoing trials. When we start to think about the patient impact of this clinical trial activity, we see that there are 60,000 patients targeted to be enrolled in these ongoing clinical trials. And if the targets are reached, we will have soon 20,000, more than 20,000 patients involved in phase 3 clinical trials in regenerative medicine. It's not all prospective, of course. You know, part of what's so fantastic about being in this space is that we're already having an impact with the products that are already on the market, and that impact is not small and incremental for a small portion of patients treated, but rather really dramatic responses. So for Kymriah and Yescarta, they're showing response rates between 50 and 83% in patient populations that had already unsuccessfully undergone other forms of cancer care treatment. 40 to 60% of patients are showing complete response or complete remission, an absolutely incredible result. Luxturna, likewise, is having a tremendous patient impact with life-changing improvement in vision in more than half of the patients treated. So what's next? ARM tracks, using publicly available data and data provided to ARM from its member companies, ARM compiles a list of upcoming significant data events. What I'm showing here, although it's already a bit of an eye chart, is only a partial list. The full list is available on our website if you are interested. This list of upcoming readouts and milestones is organized by timeliness, with the soonest data readout listed at the top of the chart and then working our way through. What you can see on this chart is that it's a wide range of therapeutic modalities and indications, ranging from rare diseases to prevalent conditions, that the clinical trials are covering all phases, but predominantly in mid-phase, and that these data events will cover multiple geographies. They're not all concentrated in one geography or another. So let's talk a little bit about financing. 2018 was a fantastic year for financing in the sector. $13.3 billion was raised globally in 2018. That's up 73% from 2017. $9.7 billion of that was in gene-based therapies, up 64%. $7.6 billion was in cell therapy, up 64% as well. And $936 million in tissue engineering, up 258% over the prior year. Looking at financings by type, you'll see that it was a strong year across all categories of financing. In corporate partnerships, you'll see we had a 55% increase over 2017. And that's really upfront payments only, not the tail that's involved in these agreements. In private placements, we were up 89% over 2017. In follow-ons and secondary public offerings, $4.7 billion in the year, an 18% increase over 2017. The IPO market was strong not only relative to 2017 and 2016, but also substantially higher than the watershed year of 2015, a 659% increase over 2017. And venture capital up 101% over 2017. The M&A market, as you all know, was also robust, largely because of the Celgene Juno deal and the Novartis Avexis deal. We had $20 billion in M&A activity in the sector in 2018. Looking with a little bit of granularity into what made up these aggregate numbers, you'll see that the corporate partnerships were led by the Kite $150 million upfront agreement with Sangamo from February. That agreement had a total value of, with milestones of over $3.2 billion related to gene-modified therapies for the treatment of cancer. In private placements and venture, we're both very active and sizable in 2018, with 12 companies with raises between $100 and $300 million. In public financing, 2018 saw 11 firms raise more than $200 million in initial or follow-on offerings, with Bluebird leading the way with more than $1.2 billion raised in the year. And now to public company performance. ARM tracks indices of gene therapy, cell-based immuno-oncology, and RMAT-designated companies over time. As you can see from this chart, over the first 3 quarters of the year, these indices significantly outperformed the NASDAQ index and the NASDAQ Biotech Index. The fourth quarter rocked all boats, however, and all the indices having given up the gains of the year and a bit more. Now I want to talk just a little bit about the policy environment for regenerative medicines. As I mentioned at the outset, ARM is deeply involved in shaping the policy environment to support the commercialization and availability of cell and gene therapies. And needless to say, the political and policy environment in the US and elsewhere has overall been as volatile as the stock market, if not more so. But I'm happy to report that despite that overall environment, the policy environment for gene and cell therapies has been remarkably positive and remarkably stable over the last 2 years. Regulators around the world have developed and refined expedited approval pathways, such as the US FDA's RMAT designation. 2 years since the RMAT designation was created, we have nearly 30 products with that designation. We are actively engaged with US FDA and the EMA on regulatory convergence issues, manufacturing-related guidance documents, and more. Market access and reimbursement challenges remain, to be sure, and enabling value-based payments is the primary focus of ARM advocacy in 2019. But here, too, there has been positive progress. Here's just a partial view of the landscape, but you can see from this chart that authorities in Europe, the US, Canada, and Australia are giving market approval and reimbursement to these new therapies and actively working with sponsors on new payment structures. So in summary, 2018 was a year of significant growth in the regenerative medicine sector. A rich and diverse pipeline is producing positive data. The impact of the early products for patients and families is dramatic. 2018 saw pronounced investor interest in the sector. Market forces nonetheless affected the sector in Q4. The policy environment for cell and gene therapies is extremely positive. In 2019, we will see the sector address commercialization challenges, including the development of new payment models. Thank you very much. With that,